At St. Edward's, we discuss the importance of gender roles in communication with the following individuals: Melissa Grocki, John Paul Butera, Ethan Cummins, Juan Raffo, and our expert Rebecca Robinson, who not only provides insight but applicable strategies relating to this topic. The communication styles of men and women are similar or different?
There are big differences.
Different.
A different style of communication in some ways.
They communicate very differently.
The assumption in the United States that there are obvious differences in the communication characteristics between masculine and feminine genders.
That'd be great. Thanks.
Hey, Lauren.
Hey, Caitlin, your hair looks amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, man, have you been working out? You look good.
Yeah, actually. Thanks.
Why do you think the communication styles are different?
Girls usually, generally, require more emotional support, and men are more like aggressive and egotistical about stuff. So.
Because I think men and women have different means of communication and different ways that they think their communication would be effective and vice versa.
I do think that we're really heavily encouraged to sort of perform kind of particular gender roles, and that influences the way that we learn how to communicate.
In order to understand why it is believed that conflict often arises within opposite gender communication, we asked these individuals about their perceptions as to why men and women communicate differently.
I have one of us on a pepper rocket on our way to Flavor City. You're in front of me, and it's cute.
You know what? I don't think this partnership is working.
What are you saying?
What am I saying? This is my family sauce, and you have already tried to change the recipe. You took a huge order without even asking me. And now this? If I am going to Flavor City, I am going by myself.
Let's hear about the kiss. Was it like a soft brush against your lips, or was it like a, I gotta have you now kind of thing?
Well, at first it was really intense, and then, oh God, and then we just sort of sunk into it.
Oh, so, okay, was he holding you, or was his hands like on your back? And,
No, actually, first they started out on my waist, and then they slid up, and then they were in my hair.
Oh.
And then I kissed her.
Tongue?
Yeah.
Cool.
Have gender roles impacted the way you communicate?
Yeah, definitely. Just because there's like gender roles in general, it kind of made me kind of go past that. And in terms of style, I always wear like dressed type clothing and stuff, and I think that it's personally, I don't think gender roles should be applied to anyone because there's way too much in common between like the two species than everyone thinks.
It's made me more aware because there's this whole contemporary phenomenon of mansplaining, which I myself grow very cautious of because that's something that I obviously don't do consciously, but being somebody who's like really excited, really emphatic about like teaching people things and like spreading knowledge and that kind of thing, I think that sometimes it can come off in that mansplaining sense. So it's like knowledge of that phenomenon has definitely impacted the way that I communicate to not only members of my own gender identity, but of the opposite as well.
I believe that there is our social norm that women, especially with mothers and fathers, it's like the mom is the most emotional support, and the male figure, which is the father, it's more the serious, that everything's gonna be okay, or everything is always okay, and everything has to be better, and men don't cry.
Do you think men and women value the same forms of communication in an interpersonal relationship?
Feel more comfortable with somebody, some of those gendered expectations kind of fall away, or that we, but at the end of the day, we're speaking the same language.
I think it's similar because I don't think a specific communication type describes either men or women. I think communication is different between every single individual.
Yeah, I think they do have the same value. It's just in terms of who's going to be more open about showing it.
When you have sort of two different communication styles, that can lead to misunderstanding. It can lead to one partner feeling like, they aren't being listened to.
Sometimes, I guess I don't know if gender role will kind of play into that. I think different people, it's more of the person themselves rather than the gender role.
They do, but they see it differently. If there's a solution or there's a confrontation I would do it. But I can do both.
The Huffington Post published a blog debunking the myth supporting the idea that men and women use fundamentally different communication skills. They formed their argument around the scientific research used in The Myth of Mars and Venus by Deborah Cameron. This is the data used to debunk gender communication myths.
You don't ever do that girl voice again. Freak me out.
My bad.
We're not saying that men and women are exactly the same. I mean, there are obviously physical differences like hip to waist ratio and whatnot. We're talking psychologically, where we're actually pretty similar.
Yeah, the researchers at the University of Rochester analyzed 13 published studies and then compiled it with their own data. For 122 different characteristics, from empathy to extroversion, scientific inclination to sexuality, the statistical analysis of over 13,000 individuals found that gender stereotypes aren't really entrenched in our lived reality.
So, for instance, women were not significantly more intimate in relationships, men weren't overwhelmingly more scientifically inclined, and so on. Gender can be a predictor of stereotypes, but these psychologists suggested that the ideas are socially encouraged through a reward and punishment system, approval, disapproval.
What are some strategies to overcome the clashing of gender roles?
Yeah, figure yourself out first, and don't tie yourself down or other people down to those assumptions.
Whether you're willing to agree or not, we all handle it the same way. We might show and try to be strong about it and stuff, but through a male's mind, they need as much support, if not more, than the female, because we try and block it so much.
Learning how to listen and kind of cultivating those skills is really important. Not just hearing, but listening, maybe recognizing some of the ways in which gender might be influencing that, and being able to talk about that, communicate about that sort of openly and directly. I would say that because gender in our society involves differences, sort of navigating differences in power, depending on these situations, and I do think that it's, sometimes it's strategic to, think about how gender is influencing a situation.
It is common for these gender roles to clash, often causing conflict between men and women. Conflict can be and will be resolved once gender roles are let go and reveal more similarities than differences in communication between genders.